Welcome to the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. Listen, happy Sunday, happy Lord's Day, or happy whatever God or higher power that you serve. I, of course, had to come and do the legal breakdown and shakedown of the unfortunate federal indictment of Mayor Cantrell, the first ever African-American female mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana. Listen, I have ties to Louisiana. I grew up in Shreveport, went to undergrad in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Then, of course, I frequent New Orleans, Louisiana. So I have a great love and just admiration for the city and the people from New Orleans, Louisiana. So when this indictment came out, I will tell you I was not surprised. I was not surprised because I became privy to some information surrounding this investigation back in 2023. Should I have known about this information? No. But when I found out about this particular information that I am going to share, but I'm going to share it at the end of the video because listen, it just adds to the corruption of law enforcement, in my opinion. And this is my opinion. To hear how low that they go is very scary and it's very concerning. So I am going to make sure that we break down the press conference, the indictment. I have it all here for you, the people that support me, the people that support this collaboration with the Real Life Street Stars. Y'all, I went through this indictment. Do y'all want to know what this indictment really is? Because it's not a federal indictment. It's a federal indictment. And what I mean by federal indictment, this is a federal case based off of penis. $70,000 worth of penis. Or in other words, eggplant. Because listen, I don't need YouTube trying to get me just like a Nataka would try to get me as well. But it all boils down to penis. So as we're breaking this down, make sure when you come in, you like, subscribe, follow both pages. Make sure you are coming in if you have questions. I want to hear from y'all. Like I really do, on what your take on this indictment. Do you think this indictment is based off of what we all know they come after us? Or are you saying like, sis, it ain't that good for you to be going to federal for? Like, give me the regular. Like I said this before, like I don't want nothing that is going to make me lose my freedom. I don't want no body parts that's going to make me lose my freedom. If your body part makes the woman lose their freedom, baby, go find somebody else. Leave me out the group chat. Leave me out. So with that being said, as you are liking, following, commenting, subscribing, be engaging, because I love to read y'all comments, even during and after. So let's go ahead and get into it. As we get into it, let me just reiterate. Friday, while we were all minding our business, New Orleans came out, the prosecutors for the Assistant District Attorney, U.S. Attorney's Office in New Orleans, Louisiana, the Eastern District, decided they was going to drop a bomb. And let's go to the bomb that they dropped.
Charging New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell and former New Orleans Police Department officer Jeffrey Paul Vappy II They are charged with a series of fraud, obstruction of justice, and false statement offenses for their role in a nearly 3-year fraud scheme that we allege exploited their public authority and positions. The indictment alleges that in October of 2021, Mayor Cantrell and Jeffrey Vappy, a member of her executive protection team, developed a personal, intimate relationship. From that time until Mr. Vappy's retirement in June of 2024, they embarked on a scheme to defraud the City of New Orleans and the New Orleans Police Department by exploiting Vappy's job and Cantrell's authority as mayor to have the city and the New Orleans Police Department pay Vappy's salary and expenses during the times that Vappy claimed to be on duty, but when he was actually engaged in personal activities, usually with Ms. Cantrell, but sometimes alone at the Pontalba apartment. The indictment further describes the many steps that Cantrell and Vappy took to hide their scheme and to perpetuate their continued fraud, including using a secure messaging platform, WhatsApp. Specifically, Cantrell and Vappy used the WhatsApp platform to exchange over 15,000 messages, pictures, and audio clips in an 8-month period. They also used WhatsApp to intimidate subordinates, to harass a citizen, to lie to colleagues and associates, to delete evidence, to make false statements to FBI agents, to give the government an affidavit signed under oath that contained numerous false statements, and ultimately to commit perjury before a federal grand jury, all for the purpose of distracting and impeding inquiries and investigations into their activities, including a federal grand jury investigation. The superseding indictment, which we emphasize is merely a charge for which guilt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, alleges that Mayor Cantrell and Mr. Vappy perpetuated their scheme both in the New Orleans area and during out-of-state trips. In both instances, Vappy's activities, while claiming to be on duty, were conspicuously different than any other member of the Executive Protection Unit. While in New Orleans, Cantrell and Vappy treated a city-owned apartment in the Pontalba building as their own personal shared residence and coordinated to spend time together there, engaging in personal activities, all while Vappy claimed to be on duty for the Executive Protection Unit and was being paid to do his actual job. The superseding indictment also alleges that Mayor Cantrell and Vappy arranged for Vappy to accompany Cantrell on at least 14 domestic and international trips to maximize their time together and to engage in personal activities. In their private text messages, Mayor Cantrell characterized her trips with Vappy as both, quote, times when we are truly alone, close quote, and as what, quote, spoils me the most. These trips
Listen, I'm going to say this again. If your eggplant gonna have me acting like that, don't add me to no group chat. No, absolutely not.
included a trip to San Francisco, which Vappy and Cantrell decided to extend for an extra day so that they could visit a series of Napa Valley wineries. While Vappy was wine tasting on April the 9th, 2022, he claimed to be working and was in fact paid for working a 15-hour day. In August 2022, Cantrell said that she would, quote, unquote, make it happen, to have Vappy accompany her on a 3-day trip to Washington, D.C. for a 1-hour meeting, a trip that they both agreed they, quote unquote, needed. Shortly after they returned, Vappy described the trip to Cantrell as, quote, another leg on our journey, close quote, as he declared his love for her and their physical relationship. In total, the city of New Orleans paid over $70,000 for Vappy's travel on these trips alone.
$70,000 for some meat.
When asked about her reason for bringing members of the Executive Protection Unit with her on out-of-state trips, a practice that Mayor Cantrell began about 5 months after Vappy joined the Executive Protection Unit, she justified it as a quote-unquote pivot due to COVID and a matter of safety, in quotes. At the same time, however, she continued to take out-of-state trips without any EPU protection or Executive Protective Unit protection. In fact, on the same day, she gave one such statement. She canceled a work trip to Miami and instead traveled alone by plane, then bus, then ferry to the island of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts to spend some time with Vappy. Vappy was in Martha's Vineyard attending a conference paid for by the city of New Orleans related to his position on the Hanno Board of Commissioners, a position to which Cantrell had appointed him just months earlier. On other occasions, when Vappy was unavailable to accompany Cantrell on a trip, Cantrell chose not to take another member of the Executive Protection Unit with her. The superseding indictment alleges that both Vappy and Cantrell were aware that their conduct broke laws, criminal laws. For instance, in April 2022, an associate of Cantrell's explicitly told her in multiple text messages that spending public funds and using public resources for her personal relationship was illegal. When Vappy and Cantrell learned that the news media was investigating their time together in the Pentalba, they agreed amongst themselves to be, quote, unquote, straight and together. Days after the first news stories broke in November of 2022, Vappy conducted numerous online searches for New Orleans area attorneys who specialize in the practice of criminal law. And he researched WhatsApp's security features. But the defendant's wire fraud scheme nevertheless continued all the way until Vappy's retirement in June of 2024. As alleged in the superseding indictment, in July 2023, the grand jury issued subpoenas to both Vappy and Cantrell, compelling the production of records. The FBI also interviewed Vappy, and during the interview, Vappy lied about the nature and circumstances of his relationship with Cantrell. In response to the subpoena, Cantrell produced a selection of responsive records, but none of the over 15,000 WhatsApp messages that she had exchanged with Vappy. Cantrell also created an affidavit, sworn under oath, that in 2021 she had activated a feature on her phone that automatically deleted messages. In support of that statement, in her affidavit, Cantrell submitted a screenshot of her iPhone showing WhatsApp messages were set to delete in 24 hours. But in fact, Cantrell did not turn on that feature until December the 26th, 2022, roughly 1 month after the news media began speculating on her conduct. Moreover, this automatic deletion or quote-unquote disappearing messages feature only applied to new messages. During roughly the same period, Cantrell also manually deleted thousands of her prior WhatsApp messages with Vappy. As alleged, even at the time that Cantrell responded to the grand jury subpoena, she still possessed more than 50 pictures, including screenshots of correspondence with Vappy that were responsive to the subpoena, but which she nevertheless concealed from the grand jury. On his own, Vappy conducted online searches concerning WhatsApp and its security level, and by which time several people had already warned Vappy and Cantrell that their conduct was illegal. The indictment further alleges that Vappy and Cantrell continued their pattern of obstruction through the rest of 2023 and 2024. This obstruction included improperly pressuring the interim superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department to overrule findings of an internal investigation into Vappy's conduct. When the interim superintendent did not heed that directive, Cantrell ordered the interim superintendent to nevertheless reassign Vappy back to her protection detail. Months later, in a meeting that Vappy attended, Mayor Cantrell informed the interim superintendent that the interim superintendent would be replaced. Similarly, when a private citizen took pictures of Mayor Cantrell and Vappy together in public, dining and consuming alcohol al fresco, while Vappy reported to be on duty, Cantrell filed a police report and sought a restraining order against that citizen. This indictment does not allege that a relationship constitutes a crime. It also does not allege that the criminal activity occurred on merely a handful of discrete days or that the behavior was limited to a small series of discrete actions. Rather, it reflects the prosecution of two public officials alleged to have engaged in a years-long continuing fraud scheme that used public money for personal ends by exploiting their power and their authority. The superseding indictment alleges that they perpetuated that fraud scheme by taking steps to keep individuals silent, to deceive subordinates, and to obstruct investigations into their relationship, including one conducted by a federal grand jury. I'd like to make several things clear, if I may. First, my office remains steadfast in its commitment to rooting out public corruption in any form without fear or favor within the Eastern District of Louisiana. And by the term public corruption, I mean public officials exploiting their positions and their power for their own personal gain. Public officials should be in their jobs to serve the public and not themselves. To do otherwise is a breach of the trust that undermines the public's faith and trust in their own government. Second, this investigation remains ongoing, and I would encourage anyone with information to come forward and to do so quickly. They can do so by contacting the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at fbi.gov, submit a tip. As I close today, I wish to emphasize that our investigations and our prosecutions go wherever the evidence takes us. Today's superseding indictment is the culmination of a lengthy and a deliberate investigative process in the ultimate pursuit of justice. No decision in this case was made lightly. I'd like to recognize the dedication at this time of the career prosecutors handling the case. To my right, Supervisory Assistant U.S. Attorney Jordan Ginsburg, who is Chief of the Public Corruption Unit, and AUSA Assistant U.S. Attorney Nicholas D. Moses of the Financial Crimes Unit and our Healthcare Fraud Coordinator. These men were ably assisted by numerous staff members of our office who dedicated their time and energy to assist them. I also specifically recognize the supervision of Tracy Knight, who is our criminal chief and has done
Tracy is a good old sister, don't y'all say?
A wonderful job in supervising this investigation and this prosecution. Individually and collectively, I am proud of this office's collaborative, professional, selfless, and unrelenting efforts. But such a case as this requires really tremendous partnership, and we have been blessed to have such. I want to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's New Orleans Field Office, led by Special Agent in Charge Jonathan Tapp, and his team members, Assistant Special Agent in Charge Percy Giles, and also ably assisted by Supervisory Special Agent Samira Maroney. The FBI spearheaded this investigation and have been with us on this matter from day one. The tireless work of FBI's agents, analysts, and support personnel deserves very special credit. I'd also like to recognize the indispensable contributions made by the Cybercrime Lab of the Department of Justice's Computer Crimes and Intellectual Property Section.
Okay, sir, be quiet.
Field Office, Jonathan Tapp.
So, what we just went over is the federal government's press conference for them going over the federal indictment. I said it's not an indictment, it's an indictment. You got to hear some very, very salacious details. So I'm going to tell you this. The feds always slow cook. They have been investigating her since 2021. I will give you my theory of how I think this all even exploded even more, because the one thing as a Black woman that I want other Black women who ultimately obtained the level of power that she had, that's when you got to shut everybody out. You have to. We can't afford for them to have such an easy route to wrong us. And I know I said that she must have pissed in somebody's cereal and they didn't like the flavor that they received. Yeah, she pissed in someone's cereal. They did not like the flavor that they received on the other end. So with that, let's go ahead and go over the indictment. Let me see if I can make this bigger so that y'all can see. No, I like this one. Let's go ahead and get into it. The United States District Court, Eastern District of Louisiana, they have indicted two people, Mayor Cantrell and Jeffrey Vappy, which is a former New Orleans Police Department officer. And I'm going to tell you like this, I believe he retired so that he didn't have to give up that pension. So it reads, as Mayor Cantrell received, hold on, let me go back to the other page. The defendant, Latoya Cantrell, was mayor of the city of New Orleans. She was elected to serve a 4-year term in November 2017 and was re-elected in November of 2021 to serve 4 more years. Now her term ends this year, and that's how petty the federal government is. As mayor, Cantrell received physical protection from the New Orleans Police Department Executive Protection Unit. The defendant, Jeffrey Paul Vappy, served as a member of the Executive Protection Unit and was assigned to provide Vappy protection to Cantrell from on or about May 23rd, 2021 to on or about November 9th, 2022, and again from June 22nd, 2023 and on or about April 22nd, 2024. So let me break down those years for a second, because when he read during the press conference, he mentioned there was 2 splits because he had ended up being removed from her detail back in 2022, and she should have left it there. But no, she went and did what she did and got him back within 7 months? Okay. On or about 2021, Cantrell developed a personal and intimate relationship to hide their relationship from detection and to maximize their time together. Cantrell exploited their public relationship, their public positions to develop and implement a scheme to defraud the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Police Department by engaging in personal activities while Vappy claimed to be on duty and was paid for providing protection for Cantrell. As a part of their scheme, they arranged and both accompanied when she traveled outside the state of Louisiana on official business. Cantrell falsely claimed she needed protection from members of the Executive Protection Unit while traveling due to safety concerns. They orchestrated out-of-state trips to maximize their opportunities to engage in personal activities. In total, Vappy's trips with Cantrell cost the city of New Orleans $70,000, separate from Cantrell's own travel cost. It better been worth $70,000. You better have got every ounce of what needed to come from what you were getting out of the eggplant. Baby, it better have worked every time. You better have got every ounce and every drop every time. I'm just, y'all, don't. I'm just being comical because I got to do that because this is, aware their conduct violated rules, policies, and criminal laws, Cantrell and Vappy attempted to distract and impede inquiries and investigations, including a federal grand jury investigation about the true nature and circumstances of their relationship and their scheme to defraud. They did this by using an encrypted messaging platform, intimidating and punishing subordinates, lying to colleagues and advisors, making false public pronouncements, harassing a private individual who took pictures of them in public, deleting electronic evidence, making false statements to federal law enforcement agents, authoring an affidavit signed under oath and penalty or perjury containing false information, and testifying falsely while under oath before the federal grand jury. Is that a lot? That's a lot for that $70,000 worth of eggplant, huh? You probably looking at your eggplant right now like you ain't even worth the $1 that I spent for you to breathe. You ain't worth $1. You ain't even worth $1. 70,000? You ain't got no ring, baby. And let me tell you what makes it even more salacious. The man was having, I think he was at the time. She should have just stayed with her old thing. I digress. So they go over what the executive protection unit is, because every city official that, say, the mayor, the governor, the president, senators, all of that, they get to have this protection if it rises to that level. So the New Orleans Police Department was in it. We already know what the hell that is. We ain't got to go over that. The city of New Orleans employed an executive protection unit for the purpose of providing security and risk mitigation for select high-ranking city of New Orleans officials, i.e. the mayor. Approximately 4 members of EPU, each of whom was a law enforcement officer employed by the NOPD, or Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, provided protection for the mayor. They were split into 2 teams, A team, B team, of the 2 members each. The 2 EPU members were organized to provide protection for the mayor on a preset rotating schedule. EPU members assigned to provide protection of the mayor worked on EPU assignments exclusively. The mayor's EPU personnel provided protection for the mayor when the mayor was away from the mayor's place of residence. EPU did not typically provide personal protection for the mayor when the mayor was at locations at which the mayor was residing, except when extenuating circumstances such as a viable threat existed. The EPU did not typically protect the residence of the mayor when the mayor was elsewhere. In the course of their duties, EPU members rarely entered the mayor's residence. On such occasions, EPU members only spent a brief period inside the mayor's residence. Even when extenuating circumstances arose, EPU remained outside the mayor's residence when providing protection. EPU members were paid bi-weekly by the city of New Orleans at a regular overtime hourly rate. Members of EPU employed by the NOPD submitted their individual time work to an NOPD sergeant on a regular basis. So they submitted their time to their superiors. The information the NOPD officers, including EPU members, provided regarding their hours worked was compiled into electronic biweekly time card that included, among other things, the date, beginning time, and all of those good things. NOPD relied on this content to certify time cards to determine the amount it is to be paid under and by EPU members. We ain't going on no dang on policies. Y'all know what a policy is. You do this, you do that. You don't do this, you don't do that. Period. The end. So y'all can put y'all 2 and 2 together, what he was and was not supposed to be doing. Like lying on that time card and sleeping with that woman and all the other stuff and lying about it and doing all that stuff. Yeah, I get it. Let me go to her. Defendant LaToya Cantrell. On or about November 18, 2017, Cantrell was elected to serve 4-year term as the city of New Orleans mayor, and again in November of 2021. During Cantrell's tenure as mayor, she received city paid During Cantrell's tenure as mayor, Cantrell received city paid protection from EPU. Typically on the preceding afternoon or evening, a member of Cantrell's staff circulated a document via email containing Cantrell's schedule and the members of EPU that would be on duty for Cantrell the next day. The email recipients included Cantrell, members of EPU, and various members of Cantrell's staff. On or about March 22nd, 2022, Cantrell appointed Vappy to serve as the member of the Housing Authority of New Orleans Board of Commissions. Y'all, I had one of my former friends served on that board, but for North Louisiana. And I remember going, I ain't gonna tell my business. I ain't gonna tell y'all my business. I ain't gonna tell y'all my business, but I'll tell you like this. That man ain't had no business being appointed to that. Tell you like that. They had no business. Had no business being appointed to that. But hey, we do as we see and not as we do. And as long as you in office, you got power, you can appoint whoever you want to, regardless of qualifications, because that Magna doing it right now. So they go into the personal correspondence between Cantrell and her eggplant. The eggplant, yeah. WhatsApp was a free end-to-end encrypted cellular phone messaging application that allowed users to send text, voice messages, and video messages, make voice and audio calls, and share images, documents, user location, and other contents. WhatsApp was known for their security features. So while y'all thinking the federal cannot get access to WhatsApp, stay tuned. In or around February 2022, Cantrell began using WhatsApp and her eggplant as primary means of exchanging messages. Between in or around February 2022 and around October 2022, they exchanged over 15,000 messages in WhatsApp. 15,000? I don't even text that much. 15. Y'all too, first and foremost, y'all too old to be texting that much. Get a grip. 15,000? Y'all thought y'all was safe in that WhatsApp. Y'all said, you ain't gonna get that WhatsApp. Approximately 5 months after Vappy joined the EPU and started providing security protection, Cantrell began arranging for members of EPU to accompany her on out-of-state trips that required domestic and international air travel. In or around October 2021, Vappy accompanied Cantrell to Scotland. Vappy would later reminisce in WhatsApp message to Cantrell that Scotland trip was where it all started. Where what all started? That $70,000 eggplant? In an interview with local television stations recorded on or around September 13, 2022, Cantrell justified having EPU team members accompany her on trips outside of the state of Louisiana as being due to COVID and absolutely tied to my health and my well-being. In a separate statement, Cantrell explained that her travel accommodations were a matter of safety, not luxury. 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 And that, as all women know, our health and safety are often disregarded, and we are left to navigate alone. You better use that. You better use that. Yeah, I like how you did that right there. I like how you put that together. You better use that because, listen, we are the most unprotected and the most disrespected, so you better drop that bar. It ain't gonna work, though. Notwithstanding her justification for needing EPU members to accompany her, Cantrell continued to travel outside of the state of Louisiana without EPU. For example, in or around June 2022, Cantrell traveled to an event in New York without EPU because Vappy was supposed to go but could not due to injury. What he injured? The eggplant. The eggplant was out of order. The eggplant wasn't working that time. Okay. Similarly, on or about September 13, 2022, Cantrell canceled a work trip to Miami, Florida, where she was scheduled to attend a fall leadership meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. Boring. Boring. I know what you're about to do, Cantrell, because that was boring, huh? Boring. But instead, during that same time she canceled the Miami trip, Cantrell booked a personal trip in which she traveled alone from New Orleans to Martha's Vineyard via commercial plane, commercial bus, and and on a ferry to spend time with her eggplant while he attended a conference paid by the city of New Orleans related to his position on the Housing Authority board. Baby, I need to get on that board if it's going to send me to Martha's Vineyard, baby. Yes. Between and or around September 2021 until March of 2024, while purporting to serve as an on-duty member of EPU, Vappy accompanied Cantrell on at least 14 trips outside of the state of Louisiana, including domestic destinations such as Los Angeles, California, Orlando, Florida, San Francisco, California, and Washington, D.C., and international destinations such as Scotland and the United... Oh, and they went to Dubai. The city of New Orleans incurred more than $70,000 in costs related to Vappy's purported work-related trips outside of the state of Louisiana, with Cantrell including travel, lodging, meals, incidentals, and salary. For example, April 6, 2022, they traveled from New Orleans to San Francisco for the stated purpose of Cantrell attending an environmental law enforcement conference that began on April 6, 2022 and ended on April 8, 2022. As a result of the April 2022 trip to San Francisco, the city of New Orleans incurred expenses for Vappy and Cantrell of over $9,000, including paying approximately $1,600 in salary overtime. That's for 2 days? Damn. On or about August 21st, 2022, they traveled from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. for a 1-hour meeting with representatives of the United States Department of Justice. As a result, the trip cost over $3,000, including paying Vappy over $1,100 in salary overtime. September 2022, they traveled from New Orleans to Atlanta for a 1-day conference where they incurred more than, there was a $762 to upgrade Vappy's seat to first class. That's some good eggplant. That eggplant is so good. The city paid over $5,000, including the $1,400 in salary overtime. There was an apartment. The city of New Orleans owned an apartment in a building in the French Quarter. This is where my knowledge starts to kick in. Let me stop. Y'all don't pay me no mind. They owned it until around March, or rented it because they didn't own it. Hold on, they do own it. Whatever. 2024, the mayor had access to this apartment up until no later than mid-2022. EPU members treated the apartment in manner similarly to Cantrell's personal residence, including not providing protection for Cantrell while Cantrell was inside of the apartment. During shifts, Vappy claimed to be on duty. He frequently spent time inside of the apartment, both with Cantrell and alone. Just take that to your house. Why you ain't? Just take that to your house. That's crazy. On or about September 9th, 2022, local news New Orleans media outlets first published and broadcast reports regarding Vappy and his frequent and lengthy presence inside the apartments. Vappy was removed from EPU and reassigned another position with the NOPD from on or about November 9th, 2022 until about June 22nd, 2023. On or about November 14th, Vappy conducted numerous online searches for attorneys who specialize in the practice of criminal law in the greater New Orleans area, including using names of several attorneys and female defense attorneys near me. On multiple occasions, including on or about January 18, 2023, Cantrell made public statements in which she denied having romantic relationship or physical relationship with Vappy. On or about June 15, 2023, interim superintendent of NOPD formally sustained the finding of an internal investigation that concluded Vappy committed misconduct as a member of EPU. Shortly before doing so, the interim superintendent notified Cantrell of the interim superintendent's intent to sustain the proposed findings. In or around June 2023, Cantrell directed the interim superintendent to reassign Vappy back to EPU. Acting at Cantrell's direction on or about June 22nd, 2023, the interim superintendent did so. Baby. On or about September 11, 2023, Cantrell informed the interim superintendent during the in-person meeting that the interim superintendent would not become the permanent superintendent. And Vappy attended the meeting. Ooh. That dick was not that good. On or about September 22nd, 2023, the interim superintendent tenure ended. Beginning on April 15, 2024, the local New Orleans media outlet published and broadcast reports that Vappy and Cantrell dining and consuming alcohol together during times Vappy claims to be on duty. The reports included photographs of Vappy and Cantrell engaging in personal activities in public and taken by New Orleans residents. This one gets spicy. On or about April 22nd, 2024, Vappy was again removed from EPU and assigned to another position with NOPD. On or about May 9th, Cantrell filed a police report including a non-public information and characterized the behavior of the New Orleans resident who took pictures of her together in public as menacing at the point Cantrell was concerned for her safety. You couldn't be. You was out in a public. On or about May 10, 2024, Cantrell filed a petition for protection from the stalking and sexual harassment concerning a New Orleans resident who took pictures of her, claiming that the resident had harassed Cantrell and was risking her safety. On or about June 29, 2024, Vappy resigned from NOPD. On or about July 14, 2023, special agents with the FBI interviewed Vappy at his residence in New Orleans, and Vappy made materially false statements to FBI. They also served him with a subpoena and issued for the federal grand jury in Eastern District of Louisiana. The July 14th subpoena required the production of, among other things, correspondence with Cantrell, gifts Vappy gave Cantrell, and pictures of gifts they gave him. When they ask for that, y'all, they already know. They already know you got it. Just give it to them. Just give it to them. On or about July 18, 2023, the federal grand jury sitting in the Eastern District of Louisiana issued a subpoena, Cantrell requiring the production of, among other things, communication, the same thing. On May 31st, 2024, before that, in return, she submitted sworn affidavits claiming and containing false information. On or about June 28, 2024, she appeared before the federal grand jury, was placed under oath, and she testified falsely. The conspiracy. Beginning at the time unknown, but not later than around October 2021, and continuing until on or about June 29, 2024, in the Eastern District of of Louisiana and elsewhere, the defendants did knowingly and willfully conspire and agree to devise and intend to devise schemes to defraud and obtain money and property from the city of New Orleans and the NOPD by means of materially false and fraudulent pretenses, representation, and promises, by use of interstate wire transmissions, in violation of Title 18 of the United States Code. The conspiracy comes from the WhatsApp. All them 15,000 messages, that's what they used. And y'all. So they have the text messages in there from WhatsApp. They have the picture from the Napa Valley. More text messages. More text messages. Receipts. More text messages. They got the timeline. This is how I put cases together, y'all. I ain't gonna hold you. I put cases together like this, baby. I ain't gonna miss nothing. I ain't gonna miss nothing. They got, ooh, baby. Hey, then you tell it to put a ring on it. On or about. This is funny. Oh, they referenced the bodyguard and how the bodyguard did the same thing. That's crazy. He took a picture and sent it to her from that apartment he's supposed to be in. They got 17, 18. Damn. So that's over 18 counts. Now let me go over just, what these 18 counts mean, because they also have a forfeiture. That forfeiture means that any property that benefited from the fraudulent behavior, they gotta come up off of it. But the government gotta prove it, though. The government gotta prove it. So they are charged with the following: obstruction, conspiracy, wire fraud, misrepresentation. Misrepresentation comes from both of them lying to the federal agents and under oath, where you understand that you are up against penalty of perjury if you lie. She also submitted an affidavit. That was a lie. That's what I get them on the misrepresentation. Conspiracy. These two individuals conspire, and you can see the conspiracy taking place through the wire fraud, through the WhatsApp. And in the WhatsApp, they are literally talking about how to not get caught. So that was easy. They gave it to them. They gave them the dope. Also, the conspiracy, what has not been released is there was an NCIC that was conducted on the New Orleans resident who just so happened to take a picture of them, send it out, and start getting harassed. She now has a civil rights lawsuit against the city of New Orleans and Mayor Cantrell. Someone went into the NCIC, which is a national criminal database where only individuals with credentials can have access to it. They have to be credentialed in law enforcement or, like myself, a former prosecutor. Nobody else get access to that. So somebody, but the database can tell you when this person's information was searched, and it was in fact searched. And it was not supposed to be. That resident's information was in the NCIC. They still ain't told us who did it, but baby, we already know who did it. We know who did it. Now, when we talk about the wire fraud, we know what wire fraud is. The fact that I went over the amount that he was being paid overtime when he was actually not working, that is wire fraud. Those transmissions, any transmission that was generated electronically, wire fraud. $70K, wire fraud. And obstruction was when she filed that complaint against that resident, going and checking the system, having somebody to check the system, allegedly. Also deleting messages, firing people, or not renewing their positions. And to add insult to injury, she was warned. Someone in 2022 warned her. We are not bigger than the program. I don't care how powerful you become. Just know we are never bigger than the program. The program will come and seek, kill, steal, and destroy. We're not bigger than the program. And unfortunately, Mayor Cantrell thought so. And I really hate that because y'all know when it comes to Black women, I love Black women real bad. I really do. We all, make mistakes. We all got to go through trials and tribulations. We all got to answer to karma. I know I've answered to karma. I know everybody can attest to when they've answered to karma. It has no date and it does not expire. So, in my opinion, it's not looking good. It looks like a slam dunk case by the feds. It looks like they dotted their T's and crossed their I's. But let me give you what my experience with the information that I know. So I may have come across someone that is, that person. And allegedly, the FBI may have stolen somebody's car who may be connected and, did something in relations to this case that was not supposed to be done because it's illegal, but that because they're the feds, they think that they could get away with it and it could taint portions of the case. Who said that? Y'all ain't hear that from me. Y'all ain't hear it from me. I ain't hear that. I ain't hear that. But back to the reality. The reality of it all. She's indicted over some dick. She got indicted over some dick. It ain't no other way to play it or spin it or say it or do it. She got indicted over some penis. And this is an expensive penis. They have to both sit next to each other. I don't think this is going to go to trial. If it does, I wouldn't take it to trial, because at that moment you exposes the judge to everything that they got to hear. Baby. And the more people, they are after more people. They're after more people. I would have left that penis a long time. Baby, that penis was not worth it at all. So the next step is arraignment. Then after arraignment, discovery. They're going to continue their investigation. Their goal is to hang this win up very soon. The indictment is about 48 pages. That's not a lot. And they gave them everything that they needed. So when in doubt, leave that vagina, leave that penis if it's not worth your freedom. Because guess what? You can't go to the feds with that person. You're going to go to your own feds. And baby. So that's what I have on the Mayor Cantrell of New Orleans case, the case of the federal indictment. The federal indictment. Now make sure you are liking, following, sharing this live, and also you have subscribed to the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. We are about to start a new series for my vlog, Single in Law, where I'm taking you out on the journey. I have a project that I worked on that I have had to fly to and from a different city, and it is going to be released very soon. I want to say at least by Wednesday. I'm so excited because I got to 500 subscribers. I can now release this vlog. It's a labor of love. This is a love letter to my friend Tegan Hill, who passed away July 4th, 2021. We were on a boat celebrating her birthday, and I lost a very dear friend of mine's, right before my eyes, her and her sister. And this project is my labor of love and my love letter to her. So I'm going to take y'all on that journey. It's going to be tears. It's going to be a lot of learned lessons. So make sure you have subscribed to the Public Opinion Court. Also, are you following me on TikTok? The Public Opinion Court _. Make sure you are following me on TikTok and liking and sharing on TikTok. But other than that, happy Sunday. I hope y'all have an amazing start of your week. As you know, I give you the legal breakdown and shakedown. Also, Young Dolph's last installment of the co-defendant's trial starts tomorrow. So y'all know I'm going to be all up in that thing, because I am a young Dolpher. Shout out to Dolph, period, on any day of the week. But like any other time, thank y'all for joining. Y'all have an amazing evening, and always, the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but what opinions are.